Welcome home, my leadership friends. So why win wins? There's a ad by Nike that I'm going to evaluate today and hopefully give you some aspirational things to think about. But welcome home, my leadership friends. Nike once spent close to 20% of their ad revenue in a year on advertising. This was told to me while I was working for Nike and Wieden and Kennedy. But the person who told me it, he used to work for Avia. So I'm not sure exactly on those numbers every year, year to year, but that's $1 in $5 of revenue. It's a lot of money. Across town at the time, Leatherman, I was told, spent a third of their revenue on patent infringement issues related to the Leatherman tool. And so businesses make big decisions on what they're going to spend on. I personally, as a marketer, like the idea of spending a lot of money on the marketing part of things and letting the patents fly a little bit because I'm not an IP attorney. An IP attorney would disagree with me, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some balance there. Anyway, they didn't spend the money because they like commercials, but because they understood something that most brands kind of miss. And as somebody who grew up around ad guys and advertising people, my father had a master's or went to WSU for a master's in advertising and was an advertising manager. It's one of his first jobs. And then my uncle was partners with Duke Wieden, who was Dan Wieden's dad, of the famous Wieden and Kennedy that came up with the Just Do It, and including the ad that I'm going to evaluate today. But anyway, so I've looked at these things and I've looked at where attention follows aspiration and aspiration converts. So I'll do that one more time because it's kind of cool. Attention follows aspiration and aspiration converts. It's not easy to go from, Budweiser like image ads to actually converting for people to buy drink wise. And I respect but by the way, I may have all of this wrong. So you may have a different idea for your product and what works for you and your image and your brand and alignment with your brand and how you want your values to show up. And so what I could say, I'm sure my brother finds wrong quite often, but to each his own. And that's one of the great things about being free in this free society that we live in. Now, I don't want to tread on any brand issues here, and I don't understand the ins and outs exactly, just looking from a professorial standpoint and as somebody who used to speak at American Marketing Association and places like that. Like I said, I've had a lot of advertising backgrounds. I've seen lots of ads before they run and evaluated lots of ads and focus groups and things like that. But today we're going to talk about attention follows aspiration and aspiration converts and the So Win Caitlin Clark ads. And today the percentage flexes year to year, but the philosophy hasn't changed. Nike executives didn't just track reach and recall. I'm not sure they tracked it at all, to be honest. When I was a market researcher, I wanted them to track these things, but for the most part, I saw them using other people tracking things. And what they did was different. They had experts in the brand categories, and those experts actually ran things. It's a different model to segment by passion and emotion and connecting with the athlete at the athlete's level and treating everybody like they're an athlete so that we all wanted to wear those shoes like Mike. But one thing they definitely were looking at, whether they measured it specifically in a market research standpoint or not, is they measured emotional ties. And they talked about emotional ties, focus segments, and innovative product. But because emotional attachment predicts long-term purchasing better than any short-term metric. So if you are a fifth grader and you get a cool pair of tennis shoes and you like the brand, you're going to like that forever. So think about ads featuring Caitlin Clark because they matter to the world of sports and marketing. This isn't just a commercial. It's a pattern that you can go back and look at that Nike has done for a long time. Nike does three things simultaneously: emotion first, confidence, courage, unapologetic excellence. Product is always visible. The shoes, the headbands, the wearables, never competing brands with their brand. You see their brand. They're tying that emotion to their brand. Aspirational identity. This is who you could be. It's awesome. This time of year, It's right before the New Year's resolution to get those Christmas Nikes or Christmas Nike training products so you can be all you can be, like you're in the army. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Serena Williams. The list is endless of fantastic John McEnroe-like athletes. Now, Caitlin Clark. Each wasn't sold as perfect, and we know that athletes aren't perfect. They were sold as committed, right? And athletes are committed. This is a danger, right? An athlete to win their category in the Olympics, according to Rick Burton, the former dean of the University of Oregon School of Sports Marketing program, the Warsaw School of Sports Marketing. He said that in a study they did, that 70% of athletes, Olympic caliber type athletes, would actually take something, even if they would die in 3 years, if they could win their category. That's how committed athletes can be. And one shouldn't be that committed to where they would die and hurt their family in that way. But here's what's changed in society. We now live in what Gary Vaynerchuk calls the attention economy, where people may not be Michael Jordan, but they can play Michael Jordan as an athlete in a video game. They can dress like him. They can move like him in video games, social media, and in real life, and have an avatar that looks like him. Aspiration has become interactive. And Caitlin Clark works because she has mass recognition and mass credibility. She's not just hype, right? She's performed at the college level and now at the professional level, and she's historical, already one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time, the way Serena Williams was in tennis. And that kind of greatness draws eyes. And advertising agencies love to draw eyes and measure things by drawing eyes. That doesn't necessarily mean convert. And so I'm bringing the conversion into the talk today because, I've worked with a lot of award-winning advertising agencies that do the most creative, awesome things in an artistic way, but not in a business way where they actually convert. When you're evaluating somebody and the ad agency says, hey, look, our ad won this award, that's awesome. And that's great that they're able to do that. And that may give your brand a little bit more punch and attention. But the Aflac duck is annoying, but it increased sales by a double-digit percentage. Think about that. Eyes turning to attention is one thing, then conversion, right? So attention turns into desire first, though, and then desire in turn turns into purchases. And this isn't accidental. You got to focus on it. 2 Ivy League insights back this up. Harvard Business School research shows that brands with strong emotional attachment create significantly higher lifetime customer value, meaning dollars in revenue, than brands focused on functional features. So even though the functional features of the Air Jordan, that's not necessarily what sold them. And Wharton School of Business has found aspirational marketing, when the ideal feels reachable rather than elite, drives stronger motivation and follow through than fear-based or status-only messaging. So the emotional triggers I've talked about before in a previous podcast, but the big ones are the ties of trust. You trust that the brand's going to deliver, and pride. So you have some pride in it. It's like, it's cool that you have the Michael Jordan brand. I have done lots of focus groups on what is cool. That's an elusive one. So it depends on the segment, and it depends on the emotion. It depends on who you think is cool. It depends on your values and all of those things. Back to the Wharton. My son played basketball with the CFO of Nike's son, and he was a Wharton grad, and I didn't know him. I sat by him one time watching him practice. He seems like a great guy, but how phenomenal do you have to be as an individual to be able to manage economics across 180 countries and all of the different things that he did during a growth period, and for his clients were some of the hardest hitting business people in the world. It's not a small game, and it's not a small thing. Just think of just the accounting that Nike has to do. I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but Nike doesn't say you must be Caitlin Clark. That's the point I want to make. They say you can move, you can compete, you can try. And so that's the high road, right? Isn't it? Involving everybody, that you can try, you can be like this, you can be an athlete, you have a body, you can do this. That idea isn't just business, it's ancient. And in ancient scripture, in Hebrews 12:1, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. So not for anybody else, right? You're not Caitlin Clark, but not the fastest race, your race. And I encourage you to do that. And in 1 Corinthians 9:24, run in such a way as to get the prize. So set those goals. The prize isn't just fame. Prize isn't just one thing. It can be discipline, growth, stewardship of the body you're given, stewardship of the gifts you're given. Nike's best ads, like So Win, they don't lower people, they elevate them. They remind us that nearly everyone or anyone can be athletic in some way or another, and at least active. And being physical is good for the mind, for your leadership life, because that's what I want you to think about, is that getting that return on investment on your leadership. That's why this works. That's why it sells. And that's why aspiration done right is not just manipulation, it's motivation. It's leadership influence, because the brands that win don't chase attention. They might like it if it's negative attention even, but then they earn it. So win. Bless your week and do it so you win like Mike, or do whatever it takes to be a positive leader. Lead on now. As my father said, it will set you free.